Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining our all-campus meeting to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine mandate as announced last week, Wednesday, following the board decision for us to have to come into compliance. Two things I want to talk about this afternoon is the federal contract vaccine mandate component, and then respond to some of the most commonly asked questions that we are receiving. It's not all the questions, but it's the most commonly asked ones. And then we're obviously going to continue to respond to questions as they come in, do our FAQs and the like. But I want to take us all back to the beginning for a moment. In March 2020, unfortunately, as we were starting to get clarity around the reality that we were in a pandemic, the college took an immediate steps to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of all of our employees, our students, and those from the community who interact with us. That was our prime objective from the board, from myself, and from my administration. And that has been our approach throughout this pandemic and will continue to be the case until the science indicates to us that we will be shifting from a pandemic to an endemic. But with that said, we are required to keep focused and be ever vigilant about our health and safety of each and every one of us. And I want us not to lose that perspective. Unfortunately, today, cases in Pima County are extremely high and they continue to spike. Hospitalization utilization is or the availability is beds is decreasing. We're already at over 90-something% utilization of the current beds, and cases are spiking. So there's still a reality around COVID. Things, as hopeful as we were that things were going to improve and get better, that's not what the data is telling us at present. So we need to be thinking about how do we make sure we look after each and every one of our safety. And while that was happening, the President of the United States made a decision through his Executive Order 14042 that any entity that has federal contracts must comply with his executive order. That decision by President Biden is really what framed ultimately Pima's decision. As you all know from our earlier communications, we are a federal contractor. We have this wonderful contract with the United States Air Force where we're training the Air Force's paramedics who are deployed all over the world. And that has been such a positive thing for Pima and the positive impacts we're making on our service members across the globe and in our community. Those are essential things I don't want us to lose sight of, that we must continue to stay focused on our mission and to be able to deliver on the promise of higher education for our community and beyond. So it's in that context I want us to keep in mind as we talk about the vaccine mandate. So I want to answer some of the most frequently asked questions. And so one of the questions that we've gotten is, how do I comply with the vaccine requirement? Well, one of the easiest ways for you to do that is to upload your vaccine card through our My Pima at Work system. There's been hundreds of us who've already done that. So it's an easy system for you to be able to upload your vaccine card, and that's the quickest way for you to demonstrate to the college, as well as for the college to demonstrate that it's in compliance with the president's order. So that then raises another question. So what are the deadlines that we have put in place in order for us to meet the ultimate deadline of January 4th to be in compliance with the federal law? So you will need to be vaccinated, let me step back. You need to upload your vaccine card by November 22nd. And to ensure that folks will be eligible for their assignments and duties, please upload your card or have an approved or pending exemption by December 14th. And then you must have your last shots by January 4th. So as you know, Pima has been working with our local Pima County Health Department to offer vaccinations on our 5 campuses. And so we've been very fortunate that the county has been a great partner with us and to provide that service and opportunity. But beyond that, many, the Walgreens, the Fry's also offer, and other places offer the vaccine. So, but we want to make it clear to all of you what are the key deadlines that you will have to hit if you need to get vaccinated. And that is, and you can see it here on the screen. And so I'm not going to read through it. I think you get a sense of that. The key is that if you don't make these key deadlines, you're not going to make the ultimate deadline of January 4th. And it's so important that you do that. Please think about the college first, because we have to make sure that the college fulfills its obligation to the community. And we are a legal entity, and as a result of a legal entity, we must comply with all appropriate federal and state laws. So what do I do after the first shot? The key is to upload your vaccination card, as I mentioned earlier. So then another question that we get is around exemptions. And yes, there are exemptions, but they are narrow in their scope. So if you have a medical or disabled condition, please let us know that through our normal reasonable accommodation process. And you don't have to reveal to your supervisor what your medical disability is. You simply need to interact with our folks in our benefits and HR department and to work through that reasonable accommodation process. Also, if you have a sincerely held religious belief, you need to do the same thing as well. But let me talk a little bit about what does that really mean. Doesn't mean that that you get to decide as an individual employee what the accommodation is going to be. You get to share with us what you would like as an accommodation, but the college will ultimately decide whether the accommodation you've requested will not cause an undue burden on the institution. And so I want to make sure that folks understand that. You can make the request, and if your request is approved, that also means that we'll engage with you on what's the reasonable accommodation, if any, that can be made. And I will share with you, some universities and some other employers, the reasonable accommodation on one end of the extreme is to put people on leave without pay until after we get through this pandemic as one of the accommodations. I'm not saying that's what we would do here at PIMA, but I'm just letting you know that that's what some places have been doing. Other accommodations can take other forms. The process will be consistent, but the outcomes will be tailored to each individual who comes in and makes that request, and if that request is granted, consistent with our federal and state obligations under the law. Also, just a reminder to all of us, let's be respectful to each other. And that's an important tenet in our employee conduct code, and I want us to remember that. Also, it's important to be honest. And honesty is also an important part of our conduct code. And so lying and misrepresenting or intentionally omitting information is not appropriate by any of us. And I've heard the stories where people can go out on the internet, purchase vaccine cards to show that they've been vaccinated. If someone were to do that and we determine that you've uploaded a false card, we will have to take appropriate action consistent with our internal processes. And I hope we don't have to go there. The college is not wanting to go through that process. We really want to encourage, and we hope all of you will comply with the federal requirement that we must meet as a federal contractor so that we don't have to see the worst end effects of non-compliance. And also keep in mind, unless you've been granted an exemption under the medical disability category or a sincerely religiously held belief category, you will have to get vaccinated. So what's going to happen if you don't comply? And this is the the tough question that people are asking. And it's a great question to ask. But I have to be honest and straightforward with everybody. If you do not come to the college, as I spoke about earlier, you will be subject to termination. At the end of the day, I have to ensure the board has entrusted in me as your chancellor that we're going to comply with all federal and state law. Federal law trumps state law, and that's an important distinction to make. Federal law trumps state law. And in this case, the federal law as issued by the President of the United States is requiring us to do this. Now, another question that comes up is, well, why can't I just be tested as an alternative? Well, under the federal contractor law, testing is not an option. You've heard that option being floated under the OSHA component, but we're not going under that OSHA component. We're going under the federal contractor piece because we're a federal contractor, and the federal contractor definition is more narrow in its application than the OSHA rule. Also, just as a point of clarification about that OSHA rule, I'm sure all of you have heard by now that there's challenges to that, and who knows what the outcome is going to be from that. But regardless of what you're hearing about the OSHA rule, regardless of whether that OSHA rule applies to the state of Arizona, we are coming under the federal contractor law. And again, that's much more restrictive in terms of its application to us here at Pima Community College. So some folks have asked about the question about boosters. In the case of booster shots, that is not a requirement or an expectation to be in compliance with our vaccine mandate. It's just simply that you get the 2 shots of the Pfizer or the Moderna or the 1 shot of the J&J, and then 2 weeks following that last shot, that's when you become fully vaccinated. You're not considered fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after the last shot, but the booster is not required in order for any individual to be meeting the expectations of the college and ultimately our expectations under the federal law. So what happens if I've lost my vaccination card? So I know when I went in and got my vaccine, and I did it at the University of Arizona, and I believe TMC was the hospital partner there. I got the MyChart app, and all of my vaccinations show up in that MyChart app. So if I would have lost my vaccine card or misplaced my vaccine card, I can go to my app and then I can download that appropriately. So hopefully for many of you who might have done something similar, you will be able to go back to who administered the vaccine and get that information that way. If you're having a challenge making that work, please work with us and we will work with you to make sure that you are appropriately acknowledged for having been vaccinated. So we'll do what we can to support you through getting that identified. But ultimately, we will need your proof of vaccination by January 4th. Another question we receive is, does the vaccine mandate apply to employees working remotely? And the answer is yes. All employees of the college, regardless of where you work, remotely, on-site, you must be vaccinated. Now, how are we going to determine if someone is an employee? Well, if you're issued a W-2 from the college, then you are considered an employee of the college. So if you work 1 hour and we issue you a W-2 for that 1 hour, then you will have to be vaccinated. Now, this does not apply to volunteers who are not receiving compensation. So keep that in mind. So the key is that if you're receiving a W-2, and most of us do, that you have to be in compliance with this requirement. So vaccine clinics, as I mentioned earlier, We have been working with the county to set up clinics. We're going to continue to do that all the way up and through January 4th. We want to make sure we provide as many options, but don't wait for the college, because sometimes we are not able to schedule additional vaccine opportunities on our campuses. You have other options in the community. Please make sure you take it upon yourself to go to those locations. It's so critical. We'll try to do our best to help you, but we can't always promise our ability to deliver on that, because we have to work with the county to make that happen for us at the college. But we'll do our best. Right now, some of you who might have recently went out to one of our locations and were hoping to get the Moderna shot, you probably came across the fact that they had run out of the Moderna and that the Pfizer was the only shot available. And that's what I've been shared with me recently, is that that's what is available now, are the Pfizer shots. As that changes, we'll be glad to let you all know if the Moderna is available or if the J&J is available. At this present time, I've been informed that only the Pfizer version is available for individuals. So another question that I get is, how long will it take for an exemption to be processed and approved? Well, we're going to move as soon as possible, but when you upload your card into the system, it's being processed through that electronic means, so how long that back-end process takes. But just know, if you've done that, make sure you hold on to your physical documents. So if for some reason something happens on that end, we can verify that with you in a manual form. But just know that if you've done that, don't worry. We'll make sure that it's recognized appropriately. But hang on to your physical version. As I mentioned earlier about volunteers, well, this law also is not requiring the vendors. If they're not receiving a W-2 from the college, then this doesn't apply to them. Remember, now and another reason why it's an important question is the masking requirements still are in place, the social distancing requirements are still in place, the hand washing is still in place. So all those good practices that we've already put in place are still to be followed until we get direction otherwise from appropriate, whether it's from the CDC, from the state health department, or our local Pima County Health Department. We're continuing to require the masks, as well as social distancing and the like. So please keep that in mind as well. So if I didn't answer your question today, please know that you should continue to send them in, and we'll have a team of folks who will go through them and try to provide answers and responses to your questions. But it'd be helpful if your questions are related to the vaccine mandate. Because as we get lots of questions, those are the questions that will take priority in terms of being responded to. Sometimes the questions are such that we'll just post them up in the FAQs so everyone can see them. But if it's an individualized question, then maybe you will be the only person who would receive the response to that. But let me just, since we have still a little bit of time, let me just share some other thoughts and perspectives as well. So those of us who are in management or in supervisory roles, what you normally do in the context of a reasonable accommodation prior to the pandemic is still the same approach here. I would not have a discussion with employees about their medical conditions or their sincerely religiously held beliefs. I would just simply say to the person, I need to refer you to ESC or HR, and they will work with you to explore the appropriate accommodation. You as the supervisor or the manager, you should never engage in that type of conversation. Also, I know there was concerns about, so how will I know if someone has been vaccinated who works under me? The college will let you know that you may have an individual or more who have not been vaccinated. We will not tell you who those specific individuals are at a certain juncture. Now, obviously, if someone's not in compliance, you will know at that point. So your need to know gets better defined as closer to when we get to January 4th. But you will know, generally speaking, who in your unit. And all I ask is that you only provide information about the process. Do not engage in a conversation about the vaccine mandate. Refer any individual who comes to you appropriately. And this is true whether we're talking vaccines, whether we're talking topics like sexual harassment or physical disabilities. You should always, as a manager, you should never guarantee anybody absolute confidentiality. Never, because you cannot guarantee that. So just keep that in mind. What we're talking about here is, in terms of the vaccine mandate, we're not having to change any of the processes that exist at the college. We already have the systems in place. All we're talking about now is here's an additional requirement that the college must comply with, and because the college must comply with that, we are now requiring all of you to do your part to make sure that we're in compliance. And another example that is easy to share is I-9. We all are required to demonstrate our eligibility to work in the United States. That is a federal requirement. The vaccine mandate is the same thing. It's a federal requirement. We have to verify your eligibility. Once that's done, then you're eligible to work. And so keep that in mind too. There's nothing new here in terms of the systems. It's now we have this additional requirement that we must meet. So with all of those things, I look forward to continuing to work with each and every one of you. I want to thank you all for what you do for the college, for our students, and for our community. We're doing great things here at the institution. We have managed through this pandemic since March 2020 in a very, very thoughtful way. We have formed, at the outset, a pandemic advisory group. Since discussions about the vaccine mandate was in play, we formed a group as well to help think through the challenges and et cetera around the pandemic and the more specific vaccine mandate. And each of those groups have faculty on them, they have staff on them, and they have administrators. So we're making sure, to the degree that we can, to engage our campus community and making sure that we all remain safe and healthy. And you have my commitment to continue to do that. Long after the pandemic subsides, health and safety will always be an issue. It may not be around the pandemic, but it may be around other issues. But we'll always make sure that that's a front and center issue for us, alongside making sure we fulfill the promise to our students and our community to get access and to be successfully going through an educational experience. So with all that, thank you so much for your time, and please have a happy Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing you all again upon the return of this upcoming break. Thank you, thank you, thank you.